New York.
Apple.
Hot dogs.
Dollar.
Hollywood.
Democracy.
Freedom. Rock and roll. Wall Street.
Statue of Liberty.
Los Angeles, California.
McDonald's.
Jeans.
Bubblegum. Video games. Nintendo.
What's so great about America?
Every Saturday night, 7 to 9 p.m., explore American culture and language.
With Master Steve,
Ina MK,
And Hasba Cutie.
tune in to find out about what makes America so great.
The Great American Weekend. Listen exclusively on Radio Van 103.1.
Also, watch us on the Radio Von Facebook page, website, and mobile app.
Good evening, dear listeners of Radio Van 103.1. This is the Great American Weekend. And we're here.
We're here.
And we're here in the studio.
Yeah.
I'm here
Welcome.
with Master Steve.
And I'm here with Ina MK. We've got an exciting show for you tonight. I think.
And our theme
We're going to be
is
talking about, a little bit of everything, maybe, I suppose. Groundhog's Day. Some news. Langston Hughes' birthday.
Yep.
So we'll be reading some poetry and talking a little bit about Langston Hughes, another great American poet.
Mm-hmm. And I love the movie, The Groundhogs.
Oh, that was like the Langston Hughes movie? There was a movie? How did I miss that? I don't see many movies these days, so maybe there was one and I missed it. No, Groundhog Day, yeah. It's a
really, really cool movie.
Yeah.
I've watched it like 10 times. I don't know.
I remember, I watched it, I think, when it first came out. I think I saw it in the theater when it first came out, and I'd seen it a couple of times. I came here in the early 2000s and realized that they kept playing it here on television. Mm-hmm. So I saw it, bits and pieces of it, like, translated into Russian. And I was like, man, they keep showing this. They keep on showing this movie here. I'd like totally forgotten about it. But yeah, it's popular here.
It is. It really is. It's one of the favorite Armenians comedy movies that were on a lot of times on the TV.
Well, Bill Murray.
Back in the times when we didn't have an access to internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
And then we've got a guest later on in the show.
And who is our guest?
Some kid named Tony.
Some talented kid.
He's tall and skinny, and he plays some instruments.
A lot of instruments.
A few.
And he also sings.
He sings.
And
yes.
also creates some music.
Yeah. Singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, Tony Donatel.
I wonder where this all comes from.
I don't know
You
where
don't have
it
a
comes
clue.
from. Well, you got to ask him where all that talent comes from. I don't know.
Maybe the genes. Who knows?
Anyway, we'll talk more about Tony later. We'll talk about him when he's here.
Yeah, not behind his back, right?
Yeah, maybe we'll embarrass him a little bit.
And you guys can call in 560-901, participate, comment, suggest some subjects, and just say whatever. Just say hello to your friends in English. Why not?
Yeah, call in. Let us know what you're thinking. Today, woke up this morning in Yerevan to snow.
Yeah.
I was happy to see that.
And it's a bummer that it was a working day, especially for kids, because my son didn't want to go to school. He was like, can I just go out and play finally when we have the snow out there? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, for me, Monday was kind of a working day, so I forgot that today was a working day.
I did too.
So, I
know the schedules were messed up.
For me, it was just another Saturday because everything. And so I, went out this afternoon with my daughter, with Emmy, and we played in the snow. We met some random kid at the park, and we're throwing snowballs and having a good time.
Yeah. I wish we did that more often as grown-ups.
Well, yeah. I mean,
If we
just
had
go
snow.
running around in the snow and yeah. I want to go skiing. I haven't gone skiing yet this year, so I need to find some time to do that.
Tzachkatzor.
Exactly.
Da-da-da.
Exactly. Get up there and do some skiing. It's so much fun.
Are you good at skiing?
I'm okay.
What about snowboard?
Snowboarding? I have never tried. I've never tried. It would hurt my butt too much. I'm not up for
skiing
that.
is also scary at the very beginning.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I learned to ski when I was in middle school. And before that, I had water skied. And so it was just something that I kind of picked up on. And it's also one of those things where, you learn how to fall well. And then it doesn't hurt that, you're wearing a big puffy jacket and things like that.
I did skiing once back when I was in college.
Oh, really?
It was so cool. It felt really good. It was like
yeah,
flying.
so go again. So go again.
I know, I should. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Great American Weekend with Master Steve and I'm
Ina MK.
Ina MK, and we're about to go on a break. I would like to remind that tonight we're having a fusion theme, Groundhog Day, Super Bowl, and we're going to talk about Langston Hughes and his poetry. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Just listen English, practice English, and also call in 560-901. You can also watch us live on www.radiovan.fm, our official Facebook page, Radio Van FM 103.1, and also our Facebook group, Great American Weekend, Radio Van. We'll be back
after this break with Ina's quotes.
Yep.
Come and hang with us every weekend. It'll be a blast.
A blast?
Yeah, a good time.
No, come chill with us. It'll be cool.
Chill?
Yeah, relax, hang out.
Come chew with the fat with us.
Yuck! No way! Join us!
On the Great American Weekend, where we'll help you decode American slang.
Chewing the fat, shooting the breeze. Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Just chattering away.
Yeah.
Call in, join us, chatter along with us.
Yeah, chew the fat with us. It will be a blast. Now we're ready for the quotes. And while I was doing my homework, I prepared 3 themes for quotes. So it's a fusion of quotes. Let's start with the Super Bowl. Let's see what people have to say about it. The team goals are always more important than individual goals. The ultimate goal is to win the Super Bowl and to do something special. The other little goals that you guys write up, those things take care of itself in the midst of playing football. Antonio Brown.
Yeah. I mean, football is very much a team sport. I know that. You pay attention to the players that have the football most often, but like the quarterback or the receiver or the running back. But it is so much a team sport. I know that from having played in high school.
Everybody is important.
Yes. And I also know that from, watching the Minnesota Vikings. They had the highest paid quarterback in the NFL the last 2 years, and they were struggling to get into the playoffs. It's not one player that does it, and especially this year. I watched more games this year than I usually do. I think I watched 6 or 7 of the Vikings games. And let me tell you, their offensive line, that's what I used to play when I was in offensive line. Their offensive line was horrible. and I think the quarterback was way overpaid too, but that's another thing.
Are you going to watch the Super Bowl?
I might. I probably won't. I'll do a little plug for this now. We'll mention it again at the end of the show on the calendar of events. But the venue is going to be screening the Super Bowl live. And the venue. It starts at 3:00
at night.
Well, yeah. And here's how do you say that? Is it 3:00 Monday morning?
Yeah.
Or is it 3:00 Saturday night. Sunday night. I mean, sorry,
Sunday.
Sunday night. I don't know how you exactly. It's like when you know.
Either way.
When you fly out of Yerevan, a lot
Late
of times
night.
you fly out in the middle of the night. So
We
people ask,
say-
well, are you leaving on Wednesday or Thursday? I'm leaving on Thursday. Okay, well, I'll see you Thursday afternoon then. No. I'm leaving Thursday at 3 in the morning, or should I say Wednesday at,
We
yeah.
say Giraki Luis Yerkushapti, which is
Okay.
Sunday light, if we translate it literally.
yeah.
Sunday light Monday. So morning, Monday morning.
Yeah, so the venue, it's the 49ers and the Chiefs are playing. Two teams that I haven't seen play this year.
I haven't seen
You
them
haven't seen
play
a game
any
at all.
ever.
I remember I used to watch the Vikings and the 49ers used to have a really big rivalry, I think back in the late 80s or early 90s. And I used to watch a lot of 49ers games, hoping they would lose. So that the Vikings would get into the
Keeping
playoffs
the
or whatever.
voodoo doll.
Yeah.
And let's move to the next quote. I want to, more than anything, to create a moment that people will never forget. Not for me, but for themselves. That's what I remember about great Super Bowl performances in the past, when you really get lost in the moment with your family. Says
Well,
Lady
wait a second.
Gaga.
Wait a second. Lady Gaga Super Bowl performance. I thought the Super Bowl was a football game. I mean, this is the Super Bowl is the most watched single sporting event
It's a family
in the
event.
world every year, and it's so much more than just about the football. You've got the commercials that are to put on a 30-second ad on the Super Bowl is millions of dollars.
Of course.
I mean, it's like buying a whole. It's like
Campaign.
buying a time slot for
a
an
year.
entire season of a sitcom. I mean, it's ridiculously expensive. I didn't look up the numbers. The last time I did, like 3 years ago, I was like, oh
I had
my
stress.
gosh, whoa.
You were stressed and you don't want to see those numbers again.
Excuse me. It's crazy. And a lot of times people the next day, Monday, Tuesday, they're talking just as much about the commercials as they are about the game. In fact, some years they're talking more about the commercials
And
because
they
the game is
compete
just kind
between
of a,
each other, right?
oh yeah, yeah. And so it's a huge, the commercials are a huge deal. That's kind of always been the thing. I remember, and I don't know if this is still a tradition, but Master Lock, they make padlocks. They used to only advertise on TV one time during the year, and that was during the Super Bowl. And it was a big thing. As far as I can remember, the advertisements have always been a big thing. Another big thing is the halftime show. You know, football has this
A song.
the 15-minute halftime, and they do just this huge
Beyonce was
thing.
singing.
Beyonce did. The first one that was really big was Michael Jackson. And he did up the whole, I mean, of course, Michael Jackson always has a huge production, the dancing, the music, and everything. So he did the halftime show once. I think it was in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And since then, it's always been a competition about who's going to do it.
The best.
What are they going to do? How are they going to be better than the year before? So yeah, Beyonce did it a few years ago. Was it Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson with the wardrobe malfunction thing? It's always something to talk about. And
And since we were talking about advertisements, I would like to read a quote which is related to it. I've done a number of Super Bowl ads, and that is the best advertising of the year. That is when people realize they're going to be compared directly against other ads, says Jerry Seinfeld. He's a comedian.
Yeah. Well,
American comedian.
Yeah, Seinfeld. He was Jerry. I mean, have you ever seen the TV show Seinfeld?
No.
Oh, the television sitcom that most of the time was really about nothing.
That's often funny.
It was a good show. It was a very funny show. I thought it was a funny show until
It's great to laugh about nothing.
Yeah, until I started living in New York, and then I realized that it's not that incredibly funny because there are actually people out there like the characters in the show, and the characters in the show are hilarious but incredibly dysfunctional.
Yeah,
and you start to realize, wow, there are people living in New York all over the place that are like that.
Exactly like that.
Wow.
The Super Bowl is Americana at its most kitsch and fun. Sting.
Yeah, and I believe he's played the halftime show.
Yeah, I guess that's when they interviewed him.
Yeah.
And he said that. Groundhog Day was one of the greatest scripts ever written. It didn't even get nominated for an Academy Award. Bill Murray.
Well,
that's
it was
bummer.
a comedy. Comedies never really get nominated for Academy Awards, do they? I mean, it's just...
I don't know. I'm not sure about
That's something that they've been trying to deal with at the Academy Awards. The popular movies, the blockbusters, are usually not the type that get nominated for the awards. So they were, the whole thing. Some of these comic book movies are starting to work their way into the awards now in different ways. They're thinking about having a new category. Maybe they did this year. I don't remember. Or will this year. They didn't have the awards yet, have they? The Oscars. They haven't had the Oscars yet?
No. The Grammys did.
The Grammys were last weekend. The Grammys were last weekend.
To be honest,
and we can
I found out
run down.
about it like 2 days afterwards.
Oh, the Grammys?
Yeah, I'm not really following Grammys.
I was, go on with your... Go on with your
to read
quotes.
another quote and then we'll have a break.
Okay.
The groundhog is like most other prophets. It delivers its prediction and then disappears. Bill Vaughan.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I predict that this is going to happen. Now I'm going to go and hide until people forget what I said.
And okay, I'll have another one. The catcher is a groundhog. He's a guy squatting down, digging for the ball in the dirt, and sweating under a pile of uncomfortable protective gear while his knees creak. Joe Garagiola. Or Garagiola.
He's
nice comparison.
Where did that come from?
Okay, guys, we'll go
my
to a break and we'll have a music break then by Red Hot Chili Peppers, Snow, because it snowed today.
Yeah.
Enjoy the music and we'll be back after the break.
Hey, Steve, do you like Hush Harisan Spas?
Yeah, I love them. But what would you call them in English?
Yeah, I'd call them cowfoot stew, chicken porridge, and sour yogurt soup.
Sorry I asked.
The Great American Weekend.
And we're back in the studio, and I'll finish the quotes really quickly so we can get to the subject. And I have a quote from the movie, actually, the Groundhog Day, and it says, "You want a prediction about the weather? You're asking the wrong Phil. I'm going to give you a prediction about this winter. It's going to be cold, it's going to be dark, and it's going to last you for the rest of your lives."
How incredibly positive, Phil. Thank you.
He was desperate at this moment. And I've got some quotes by Langston Hughes.
Well, I want to go back. So you had this Tony Dungy quote. Can we do that one?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
And I remember Tony Dungy because he used to be one of the, I think he was the offensive coach for the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh,
and we were never able to. I hate the Super Bowl in a lot of ways because the Minnesota Vikings have never won one.
Oh, I understand your pain.
They've been in the Super Bowl 4 times, right? They haven't been in the Super Bowl since I was born.
What a disappointment.
And they've never won the Super Bowl.
I'm sorry.
So Tony Dungy. And go figure. You may not win the Super Bowl, Your kids may not go on to be doctors and lawyers, and everything may not go perfectly. That doesn't mean it was a bad plan or the wrong thing. It's just like a football season. Everything's not going to go perfect.
Just get
I
over
think that
it.
I think that also fits in with the movie Groundhog Day.
Yeah, it could be.
You know,
Everything's not going to go perfect someday. Just get over it. And some quotes by Langston Hughes. Humor is laughing at what you haven't got when you ought to have it. Folks, I'm telling you, birthing is hard and dying is mean, so get yourself a little loving in between.
it rhymes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's a poet.
Yeah, exactly. I swear to the Lord, I still can't see why democracy means everybody but me. And we'll talk about this later, right? What was the philosophy of his poetry?
Maybe, yeah.
No? Okay.
Yeah,
We'll
there's
try.
an essay. If we have time, there's an essay of his that maybe I'll talk about a little bit.
An artist must be free to choose what he does, certainly, but he must also never be afraid to do what he might choose. When people care for you and cry for you, they can straighten out your soul. I love this one.
Nice.
I will not take but for an answer. That's a good one.
Yes, but
No, not accepted. I've discovered in life that there are ways of getting almost anywhere you want to go if you really want to go. And the last one, maybe, jazz, to me, is one of the inherent expressions of Negro life in America. The eternal tom-tom beating in the Negro soul, the tom-tom of revolt against weariness in a white world. A world of subway trains and work, work, work. The tom-tom of joy and laughter and pain swallowed in a smile.
And actually, I think that's from this essay that he wrote that's called The Negro Artist and the Racial Mountain, which if we have time, maybe we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, maybe we can do that later during the show. So, should I finish with the quotes or continue?
No, continue.
Okay, I have a small poem that I love that I would like to share. It's called Dreams. Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field frozen with snow. Snow again?
Snow. Yeah, and the snow didn't stick around too much today.
Yeah, I know, it's
melting. A lot
melting.
of it melted already. Kids are disappointed. Parents are. I'm disappointed too. I like the snow. I think I've said this on the radio before. I say this a lot. I don't mind the cold.
Me neither at all.
Unless you're talking like 20 below Celsius or colder, then that gets a little ridiculous.
When you have a frozen booger.
Or, well, I mean, if you guys have, I let my beard grow out longer in the winter because I do like to go skiing. I haven't been this year. I go running or jogging outside in the winter still, and that not frozen boogers, but my beard will freeze up when I'm out, and it'll be all full of icicles and stuff.
Is there moist in there? I mean, why is it getting?
Well, the moisture from your breath,
breathing. Yeah. That's true.
So the beard sickles.
The physics.
Beard sickles. No, I don't mind the cold.
Beard sickles.
That's not the kind of thing you eat, and it's different from beer sickles, which are popsicles made out of beer, which I've heard of but never tried.
I wouldn't want to try that.
I wouldn't waste good beer.
Exactly.
On making popsicles out of
Maybe they're made out of beer waste.
Out of bad beer.
Yeah.
But then why would you want to eat it? Because it's bad beer. I don't know. So I was going to say, it's the snow is like a necessity for me if it's going to be cold, because otherwise everything is just gray and dead. Like the grass dies, it's just covered up with snow. The snow's prettier than like dead grass, right?
And it looks quite white and clean and new when it's new.
Yeah, when it's not like yellow or gray or slushy and.
We don't talk about the yellow snow.
Don't eat the yellow snow.
I remember that from our previous shows.
And and the cloudiness, like the cloudiness, haziness gets me in the winter too. I can't stand that.
I have another poem.
Okay.
Catch. Catch. Big boy came carrying a mermaid on his shoulders, and the mermaid had her tail curved beneath his arm. Being a fisher boy, he'd found a fish to carry, half fish, half girl to marry. What would that mean?
I don't know.
Half fish to carry,
half fish to carry, half girl to marry. Hopefully he's not carrying her to the market to sell her like the other fish he catches. I don't know.
Okay, and I'll be done with Langston Hughes' poems. This is the one that I chose to read. It's called Mother to Son. Well, son, I'll tell you. Let me put down the background music a little bit. Well, son, I'll tell you. Life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tracks in it, and splinters, and boards torn up, and places with no carpet on the floor. Bare. But all the time, I's been a-climbing on, and reaching Lindens and turning corners and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't you turn back. Don't you sit down on the steps 'cause you finds it's kinder hard. Don't you fall now, for I still going, honey. I still climbing, and life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's a nice way to teach your kid not to never give up.
Yeah.
I loved it. So that's my choice for tonight. And also I have a quiz for you,
You've
Master
got a quiz for
Steve.
me? This is a surprise. I didn't know that.
And you have a choice,
Usually
actually.
you warn me. You didn't this time.
I'm sorry. It's a surprise. But I will give you a choice. There are two quizzes, actually. One of them is related to the movie, The Groundhog Day.
Oh, man. I don't know about that. I haven't seen that movie in so long.
It's like a 6-question quiz.
Okay.
And the other one is 10-question quiz, which is related to the holiday, the tradition itself. So which one would you prefer, Master Steve?
Both of them are going to be painful, so let's go for the short one.
Okay, let's do it. Your Groundhog Day movie knowledge on Groundhog Day. Question number 1. What is Phil Connor's profession? News anchor, journalist, detective, weatherman.
That's tricky.
Is.
Weatherman, I'm going to say. Or news anchor, I don't remember.
Okay.
Those are too close to one another. News anchor.
News anchor. Okay, I had the weatherman. Now, on question number 2, what's the song that Phil wakes up to every morning?
I got you, babe.
I got you,
Sonny and
babe.
Cher.
I remember it so well. I got you, babe. Because every time it was on, I was like, it was cracking me up. What time does Phil's alarm go off every morning? 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m., 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m.?
I think it's 6 a.m.
I think, too. Question number 4. What's the name of the annoying guy who tries to get Phil to remember him in the street every morning? Dan Hubbard, Evan Evanson, Jim Jameson, Ned Ryerson.
I have...
I don't
Ned.
remember.
Ned, just because I think I like the sound of that name right now.
But because
Ned.
it sounds annoying or something. Andy McDowell plays Phil Connor's love interest. What's her character's name? Larissa Jessup, Beth Whipple, Rita Henson, Nancy Wright.
Beth, I think. Wow, it's been so long since I've seen this movie.
And the last question, who directed Groundhog Day? Ivan Reitman, Harold Ramis, Rob Reiner, or John Landis?
I think it's Rob Reiner.
Okay, ta-da. Let's wait for the results. Oh, and the last questions. How would you rate this quiz? Okay. It was
Too difficult.
Okay, show me the results, please. Hold tight. They say da-da-da-da. You're stuck in the cycle. You've only seen Groundhog Day once or twice.
That's not true.
That's not
It's
true.
been like a decade since I've seen it.
You got the half. You got 3 out of 6 correct.
Okay.
Okay, let's move to our next theme. What do we have, Master Steve?
Our next theme?
Our next stuff.
Well,
to
I've got
talk about.
a poem, and I chose it because I think it illustrates part of what he talks about in that essay of his, and as does the poem that you read, Mother to Son. Right? It's called 50-50. I'm all alone in this world, she said. I ain't got nobody to share my bed. Ain't got nobody to hold my hand. The truth of the matter, I ain't got no man. Big boy opened his mouth and said, trouble with you is you ain't got no head. If you had a head and used your mind, you could have me with you all the time. She answered, babe, what must I do? He said, share your bed and your money too.
Nice.
And I guess one of the things in this essay, and it starts out with him talking about a fellow African-American or fellow black poet who says, I don't want to be known as a Negro poet. I want to be known as a poet.
As an average, yeah.
And that is, I was a little surprised when I read this. I've read it before, but then I found it this week and read it again. I was surprised when I read it because then Langston Hughes takes this approach to that saying that I must have been pretty new for the time, or at least I wasn't familiar that it would be common back then. He basically says, well, if you want to be an average, or if you want to be known as a poet, that means that you want to be known as basically a white poet because, not putting an adjective in there.
Yeah, categorize.
Kind of means that it's white. So he says, you should want to be a Negro poet, a black poet, and you should talk about the black experience. And if you're not talking about the black experience, then you're not talking about your own experience, and you're not talking about like what is real. You're trying to be white when you're not. And he goes on in the essay to talk about how upper middle class African Americans, blacks, Negroes, and we're bridging different times, and at different times those different labels were appropriate, not appropriate, whatever. This is where it gets funny to me, because Langston Hughes then starts saying, there's this thing about blacks, about African Americans, about Negroes that, they try to deny that they are black and try to act white. And it's funny because I feel like as he's saying that, he's stereotyping whites in ways that, whites aren't supposed to stereotype blacks. He talks about how whites just work, how they don't have fun, how they don't like to spend their money, how they're Protestant and uptight. And so it's a really odd essay for me to read. And he says, you need to talk about things that are part of the Black experience, the African American experience, even if it's stuff that other African Americans don't want to be talked about, especially that they don't want to be talked about in front of white audiences. And he ends it, I think, very well. He ends it very well, even though there are things in it that I don't necessarily agree with, or I think are challenging. He ends it by saying, look, the Black poet, the Negro poet, should talk about the Negro experience. And if the whites don't like it, well, who cares? And then he also says, and if the Blacks don't like it, who cares either? You're talking about your experience, which I think is a great way to end it. Although, if you want to be a successful poet and actually have people read you, you need to care about the audience a little bit. You can't just leave it to chance. You can't just leave it to chance and say, I'm going to write a great poem. I'm going to be a great poet.
But
nobody's going to get what I'm talking about. Yeah. And then, whatever. So I don't know. It's an interesting essay. It's on the Poetry Foundation website, poetryfoundation.org, or search it. It's in a few other places too. The Negro Artist and the Racial Mountain by Langston Hughes. It's interesting. It's thought provoking, and it brings up at a time. I mean, back during the Harlem Renaissance, back the middle of last century, early middle part of last century, it brings up things that we're talking about still, or maybe even again, with I think even more urgency, maybe in some cases. The tension between diversity and belonging. Yeah. One of the things that, I'm going to talk about impeachment because something actually happened.
Finally.
But part of my talk about impeachment is the political divisions, the divisiveness in the U.S. And I think part of that has to do with the way that in the U.S. we've been talking about diversity and belonging and assimilation. There's a point where promoting diversity breaks down social cohesion, and it's a very fine line. And I think we've crossed it in the U.S.
You think?
I think. And so it's interesting.
When?
But
just now?
No, not just now. And I've been reading some stuff about these things recently, the last couple of months. It's interesting. It's a very difficult, and it's something that you don't necessarily have here in Armenia. Armenia is a fairly, racially, it's monolithic. You're Armenians.
Yeah.
Right? 98% of the population of Armenia is ethnic Armenian. But what exactly that means is something different. I'm always surprised at how Armenians are so good at spotting accents and dialects and pointing them out of different regions, of different members of the diaspora. They say, oh, well, this must be the diaspora and they must be from this country.
Right,
I'm like,
right.
Whoa.
There are a lot of jokes about that.
I've never, even in the U.S., paid too much attention to that. I know that there are different accents and different slang to American English.
Haswell was doing good,
and he can do them. I understand that they're there, and I can tell them apart, but I've never really tried that much to identify them and say, oh, well, this is how this person's talking, so they must be from here, and that means this and this probably about them. I don't know. I've just never really. But Armenians are a lot of times pretty damn good at that.
Thank you. I guess this is a compliment.
I'm not sure. That's interesting. It's a skill, but it also, you don't have racial diversity here in Armenia.
Yeah, that's why we make fun of each other.
Yes. the operancies and
Hey, Master Steve, I'm sorry to
we have
interrupt.
to go to break, right?
Yeah.
We got to pay the bills.
We're ready for the break, and
unfortunately, no one is paying as much to advertise on our show as they would have to pay to advertise during the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
wouldn't that be nice?
True.
I mean, if we could sell one 30-minute commercial,
for life.
we would have a show for years.
Forever, eternal show on Radio Van.
we would end up with an endowment.
Stay tuned. This is the Great American Weekend. We're going to have a music break right after the advertisement by Lucas Graham, Ordinary Things. And pretty soon we are going to welcome in our studio our guest, Tony. Tony, we're waiting for you. Stay tuned.
Hello?
Hi, is your refrigerator running?
No, it doesn't have any legs.
Some American jokes just don't work with foreigners.
Welcome back to the Great American Weekend here on Radio Van.
I'm here with Master Steve.
And I'm here with Ina MK.
Hey, Master Steve.
And we've got Tony waiting out in the hallway. No, not in the office.
Now, I have to say, Tony is taller than Master Steve. And Master Steve is quite tall.
I'm not that tall. I'm a little bit below average.
If you haven't seen him in life.
I forget. I always forget how tall I am in centimeters. I'm like 5'9". And Tony is like 6'2".
That doesn't say anything to me because I still have problems with the converter. So what do we have
we've got
about impeachment?
Yeah, like I said, we're going to talk American news. There are a few things that I want to talk about.
Always.
The first one is impeachment.
The first one was the wall, remember?
The first one was the wall.
The first long series of news.
Well, about that, and I saw headlines about that this week.
Mueller report.
He's the Mueller report. The Mueller report. Oh my gosh. It's blown down due to high winds and bad weather. I don't know what the details are about that, but it just seems funny. But anyway, so Trump's impeachment, they did like a week's worth of statements by the impeachment managers, which were people that were from Congress, from the House of Representatives, that were put in charge of basically being the lawyers for the prosecution. And then they had Trump's lawyers, Trump's defense team. They spent a little bit of last week and then most of this past week giving their statements, offering evidence and all this kind of stuff. The way that the trial was set up, the rules that were set up by the Senate were that if there were going to be any further documents submitted aside from what was introduced by these two different teams during their several days of time to present, that, or if there were going to be any witnesses that were going to be kind of questioned, cross-examined, whatnot, that it would have to be approved by the Senate at this point. So there was big talk on Thursday and Friday who was going to vote for what and whether they were going to have the 51 votes necessary to pass that decision to have witnesses. A lot of talk about John Bolton being subpoenaed and called as a witness. There was apparently a chapter from a book that he's working on that was leaked that the pro-impeachment side or pro-removal side thought was really good for their case. So they were talking once again about having Bolton come in as a witness and blah, 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 blah. Well, they voted yesterday, and the vote was pretty much along party lines, which means that the Republicans voted against witnesses and documents being introduced, and the Democrats voted for it. It was 51-49, so it didn't pass.
Mm-hmm.
The reaction to this that I've seen, I was watching CNN this morning, and the reaction was, it blew my mind. I mean, people were just so upset. Chris Cuomo, I think it's Chris Cuomo on CNN, was you should be angry and you should speak out. He looked so angry and upset, and just like, you know what?
End of the world.
It's very odd that they are going to have a trial, but this isn't a regular courtroom trial. That they were going to have a trial and not have witnesses. I mean, they collected all this information and got testimony and stuff already, and that was introduced by the two different teams for several days already, right? To not have more witnesses, to not have more documents is a little odd, right? But in the end, I really do think it was a good decision, because in order to actually remove Trump from office, you need 2/3 votes of the Senate, which means you would have to get, 20 or more Republican senators to vote to remove him from office. And this means that you would have to convince those Republican senators that, one, Trump is guilty of the things that he's been accused of the quid pro quo, of the abuse of power, of obstruction of Congress, of, lying and all of these different things, right?
Yeah,
or at least some of them.
That's the first
right?
stage.
You would have to convince them of that. And then you would also have to convince them that those are impeachable offenses, that those are things that are worth removing him from office about.
That's a long process.
And that's a long process. I mean, when Bill Clinton was impeached, there were a lot of people that in the Senate that voted against removing him from office who said, yes, I absolutely believe. And the evidence was very clear. I mean, he was caught pretty much red-handed, perjuring himself. Lying under oath, red-handed. I have no idea where that came from, but it's basically it's caught in the act.
Yeah.
Right.
On spot.
Yeah. There was very little doubt about whether or not he had actually done that. But the question was, is that bad enough to remove him from office? And it was the same sort of situation. Anyway. So they didn't. They and so going through testimony, witnesses, more evidence could take days, if not weeks, longer. And it probably wouldn't change enough minds for the Senate to vote to remove him from office.
Evidence or something.
There's always the question of whether or not a lot of this stuff is testimony and a lot of it's hearsay. So it essentially has to do with whether you trust what the person is saying. And that doesn't mean whether you trust that they're being honest or not. Right. I mean, somebody can honestly be saying what they believe and be wrong about it. Right. Trump said this, and I think that it meant this. And so I am saying that this is what he did.
That's an interpretation.
And it's all interpretation, and that's part of what gets difficult about testimony and witnesses. So all of that stuff can be picked apart and analyzed and criticized and to no end, really, especially in this day and age of the internet and social media. Everything gets fragmented, sound-bited, analyzed only from one perspective, and the people of different perspectives aren't actually talking with one another in any meaningful way. They're hurling insults at one another. They're not listening to understand. They're listening to fight back. So I really don't think having any of this testimony would have done any good. In reality, it just would have whipped up emotions, made people angry, drew this out much more. And in the end...
it's a vicious circle.
Yeah. And in the end, there's an election coming up in November. And you just have to... and if there is evidence out there...
And November media, is not that far away.
No, it's not that far away. If there's evidence out there that makes Trump look bad... it will get out in the media. The problem is that the media that wants to support Trump won't cover it or will criticize it, and the media that wants Trump to be, to be voted out, to lose the election, they will present it in a very narrow way. I have no faith that there will be any decent discussion or honest analysis of most of this stuff. So.
And what you believe might be true for you, and what might be false for anyone else.
It might be false for anybody else, but I don't know if it's worth putting the country through that. I really don't. There's an election coming up, and what worries me about the whole thing
coming. The winter
in November,
is coming.
in November, and what worries me about the election is I think the Democrats are so convinced. A lot of Democrats are so convinced that they've discredited Trump so badly that they could put any Democrat up against him and they would win in November in the general election.
Could be.
And I don't think that's true, because the differences between some of these Republican candidates or Democratic candidates are huge. I mean, the difference between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, huge differences in policy. There are people out there that could vote for Biden against Trump that are Republicans.
Divide
but
and rule.
They would never vote for Warren or Sanders. So what worries me about the election coming up is that the Democrats might think that they've damaged Trump so badly that they could run anybody and beat him. And they could very well be wrong. And then no matter who wins the election, what the consequences are of Trump getting reelected would really pale in comparison to how upset people would be, how disappointed they would be. Because honestly, I think at this point, more damage is being done in America because people are just so upset and disappointed that Trump won the election than by anything, especially any one thing that Trump has done. It's just the anger and the surprise that he actually won that I think is doing far more damage. Anyway, whatever. Somebody call in and
any
stop me.
Any advice? Do you have any clue how to fix this situation?
Calm down.
The world
is not coming to an end.
Yeah, this is not the end of the world, guys.
There is an election coming up in November. You need to look at moderate candidates, people in the middle, because it's people in the middle that may not fix all of the problems in America. But we're not going to fix the problems in America until we have restored some faith in public discourse and in the government. And you only do that by getting people in there that you trust that can work together. And that's not what's happening. So all of this, our audience is Armenian, so they may not care about all the details of this. Probably don't. And good for you. But
why not? We've got
this
a lot of Americans living in Armenia.
This should be a cautionary tale to Armenians. I haven't been paying that much attention to local politics here since the revolution.
Recently there's a lot of arguments and a lot of dividings and frustration.
Which is okay. Just don't take it too hard.
It's too much.
Don't take it too personally. Remember that you're all Armenians, and in the end, you have to try to get along. I remember when, I think it was back in the spring, there was the whole thing about Kocharyan and the protests outside of the courts and stuff. Look, Kocharyan is going to try to play this and mess with things.
He is already doing that.
Yeah, but to the end of destroying faith in the revolution and destroying faith in Nikol and all of these new people that have been elected, so that he can get back in there, or he can get his people back in there. Don't let that happen.
Totally
don't let
agree.
him
do not
do that. That's just falling into this total divisiveness that will destroy any sort of progress. Progress is being made. Things are changing. Whether you agree with all of that or not, is one thing.
One of the clues is the unity. That's one of the important things. And before going on a break, I would like to
Oh my gosh.
read. Yeah.
That was horrible.
We don't have time for local news. Sorry. Master Steve stole my time.
I'm sorry.
Evgenia Babayan says, good evening. Good evening, Evgenia. And Evgenia Makurchan. We have
Any
two
relation?
Evgenias.
Any relation?
No relation.
Yeah, I'm not
sent
related
us
to the guy we're going to have on after the break
best
either.
wishes sticker. So thank you, Evgenia. David Manucharian says, hey, I enjoy your program. Thank you, David.
Hello, David.
Hello, David. And we have also Roger Rain saying,
Yeah, hey,
follow you
Roger.
from Norway. Hi, Stephen. Hello,
Good to
Roger.
see you. Glad you're watching.
Great to hear from you guys. And right now we're going on a break. And right after that, we will welcome in our studio on the red couch, Tony Donatelli. Stay tuned. This is the Great American Weekend on Radio Van, and we're here till 9 p.m.
Ina, what would make America great again?
More barbecue.
No, we need more freedom. That's what'll make it great.
Join us on Great American Weekend.
And help us solve all of America's problems.
Every show is recorded by the NSA and sent to the White House.
We're back on air with the Great American Weekend on Radio Van 103.1. And our guest is here in the studio, almost on the couch. And now we are ready to interview him. Hello, dear Tony.
I talked so much in the last segment. I bored everybody to death. Nobody was watching and paying attention.
Time flew by, Master Steve. So,
Tony.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thanks.
How are you doing? Yeah,
I'm all right.
Still a bit closer to the mic.
Yeah.
So how do you feel on this couch?
It's nice.
Do you feel comfortable,
it's comfortable
to be
couch.
interviewed by your dad?
I feel like he doesn't have much to ask me. I might be wrong.
You never know.
Yeah.
You never know, yeah. So just tell us a little bit about yourself in general. I mean, yesterday I put an announcement in our Facebook group with a link to a song. Maybe that's a good place to start.
Okay, yeah, that was my first song I've ever done. Recorded it all myself, played all the instruments, wrote it myself. I mean...
So what are the instruments?
Drums, a little bit of percussion, bass, and vocals.
Okay.
And that's kind of it.
And
you're a
the
band.
main hook is...
You're a band
trumpet.
in one
Yeah,
person.
that's right. I forgot about the trumpet.
So, and how long ago was that?
About a year ago.
Okay.
Last year in November, I released it, November 12th.
What got you into music, I wonder?
I mean...
Let's hear the story, the beginning of the story.
I mean, my dad, you always listened to a lot of music in the car. Mom always listened to a lot of music in the car. I always liked listening to music. And then I've tried quite a few instruments. The first instrument I took lessons for was violin. And I was probably 5 or 6, and I really didn't like it. And after that, I started kind of taking guitar and trumpet lessons at the same time. I was around 7 and a half. And after that, I just kind of started playing.
Well, here's it. Why guitar and trumpet?
I just really wanted to play guitar, listen to a lot of rock, and wanted to play guitar and then trumpet because I found your old trumpet in Grandma and Grandpa's basement.
Yeah.
In their basement, and I said, I want to play that.
I played trumpet for about a year or a year and a half.
So is that your favorite instrument? when you were, sorry to interrupt
No,
you.
I mean, I played it for about a year and a half, and it's so funny because just after, my parents ended up buying one for me, the band leader at the school decided to move me to tuba. So that was played for a while. and I wasn't very good at it. And then I moved and played tuba, which I was a little bit better at. And then that thing just sat for years and years until we found it in my parents' basement, in Grandma and Grandpa's basement. And you just looked at that thing.
Yeah, and wanted to play
that's it. I want to play that.
Yeah.
Tony, do you agree with the phrase like father, like son?
To some extent.
Good answer.
Yeah.
I
wouldn't say completely, but yeah.
So right now,
very diplomatic answer.
right now, you are focusing on what?
Music-wise?
Yeah.
Mostly.
Well, okay, that's I know him, but maybe he should answer that question for everybody else. I know that. I mean, your focus
I'm
is
still
music.
here.
Yeah, my focus is music. I mean, a couple other things on the side, but music.
Yeah, Ina's got a list of questions here, and one of this is, so what are you studying? Just music.
Yeah.
Music is all that is. Tony, what is music to you, since we're talking about music? How would you define it?
I mean, at this point, it's probably just the most important thing in my everyday life. It's what I do every day for at least like 5-6 hours. I'm either listening to music, I'm playing for a few hours a day. I mean, I like to always be surrounded by music in one way or another.
Cool, that is great. And I know that you also create music.
Yeah. I mean, I have 2 songs released on SoundCloud. And
but do you have more in stock?
a couple of ideas and stuff I'm working on. Nothing ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then besides those songs, I've had a couple of live performances of original, I guess, contemporary jazz mixed with techno, stuff like that.
Well, yeah,
weird.
describe that. You did Orange Night at Mirzoyan.
Yeah.
What was the other one? Purple?
Purple Night at the Prone exhibition.
Okay.
And then I played at Symposium Music Festival.
Yeah. And then you've got another one coming up later in the spring? Maybe?
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, so that's under wraps still.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
By the way, I love this song. What was the title
Leaving
of it?
Now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. I think it's really cool. I really enjoyed listening to it.
Thanks.
And I got myself, I want to replay this. So that's neat. I think you should just do music for people, because
but
love it.
what's your solo stuff? How is that? That's what we were talking about. What do you do with that?
I mean, I usually try to have for each time I play stuff like that. It's different every time. And each time I try to have a theme, just a general theme of how it's going to be. At Symposium, I had kind of traditional Armenian music mixed into it. Purple Night, it was kind of hard electronic stuff mixed in. So.
Okay, so then you're creating background tracks.
Yeah, background tracks, and then I'm playing trumpet over it, sometimes connected through a bunch of weird effects, and other times just playing trumpet.
And I think it's time to stop talking and to listen to some work by Tony Donatelli. So right after the break, we are going to listen to How Could I by our guest. Stay tuned.
Is there anything you want to say about the song before we play it?
Enjoy.
Short and sweet. Stay tuned. This is the Great American Weekend. We'll be back after the break.
What's the best word in American English?
My all-time favorite word is but I usually refer to it as lovemaking.
Become more fluent in American English and slang.
Welcome back to the Great American Weekend here on Radio Vaughn. I'm Master Steve with Ina MK and our
we're
guest.
here in the studio with Tony Donatelli. So your last name does sound like music. So Tony, can you tell a little bit about your since our show is called The Great American Weekend, and we talk about America a lot. So can you say that you have two homes, and what do you miss about America when you're here, and maybe vice versa?
I mean, I've spent basically all of my life here. I was
not quite 2 years old.
Yeah.
When we
moved here.
back here. You were born in New York.
New York.
Mm-hmm.
St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital.
And I've only been
Manhattan.
back 2 times since then.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh.
No. You've been to New York?
3 times.
3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were there several years ago. We caught U2 at Madison Square Garden.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. And then you've been there twice in the past year.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you miss about America when you're here?
I feel like it's just more exciting there. I don't know. It really depends on where you are. America's a big place.
Yeah,
that's very
true.
Yeah,
that's very true.
Maybe the place where you were born.
I mean, yeah, I really like New York, especially the last time I was there. I had a lot of fun with my older sister.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to say about the song that we played?
Yeah, please. What is it about?
All sorts of stuff, really, just what's happening in my head.
Are there any hidden meanings in your songs?
I usually like to be straightforward with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, that's the second and last song I did. And I actually wrote it and recorded it in about 4 days.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
I really like it, honestly. I will put it on my playlist.
So, and what's interesting is that it's so different from your first one.
Yeah.
And then what you've done, I want to say in the studio.
In the studio, in my bedroom.
With Bleeding Now. With Bleeding Now, which is bass, drums, percussion, trumpet, vocals, right? And then this one is bass, vocals. It's a drum machine, right?
Yeah, it's a Roland, it's the sounds from a Roland TR-808, all the drums.
And then you're a synthesizer.
And then a synthesizer,
right? Yeah. And then the live stuff that you do as your solo stuff it is so different. And then typically, what are you doing music-wise on a day-to-day basis? I mean, you say, about 5 hours listening to music, playing music, whatever. Where are you playing on a daily basis?
Playing a couple of bands. I play in the Splinters Music School jazz band. I've been playing with them for about 6 years. That's a lot of fun. One of my favorite places to be. Just recently started playing in a symphonic orchestra.
Oh,
that was
great.
Put together by Edward Topchan.
That's an awesome achievement.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, and with the Spendarion, that's a jazz orchestra.
Yeah.
So you're playing some jazz standards, more big band jazz.
Yeah, big band jazz.
Any songs that you guys play that our audience might recognize by name?
Right around New Year time every year, or for the past couple of years, we've been playing stuff like Misty.
Mm-hmm.
We play Take the A Train.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Red Clay. I mean, stuff like that. Some pretty famous songs, other songs that not a lot of people know, and quite a few Armenian songs, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then with the symphonic orchestra, what kind of stuff are you working on?
We're working on one piece right now. We've only been playing for about a month. We're working on Ninth Symphony by Dvorak.
Tony, which world-famous musician would you like to cooperate with?
Oh, people that are alive now?
Anyone, dead or alive?
One dead and one alive.
One dead and one alive. Jeez, okay. alive, I'd probably say Tyler, the Creator. Hip-hop, maybe I'd want to say R&B, too. I saw him live a couple of months ago in Los Angeles, which was a lot of fun. It was at his festival. And you guys were actually just playing him out in the hallway while I was waiting. So, and Dead, I mean, I'm not quite sure.
Too many?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way too many.
Now, here's something. Why Tyler, the Creator, and why hip-hop? I mean, is there...
I'd say Tyler, the Creator, because the way you said that I do things that are really, really different, that my first song and my second song and then the live stuff I do is all different. I'd say it's the same with Tyler, the Creator, because you go through each one of his albums and they're all just drastically different from each other. And I feel like that would be a lot of fun to work with him.
Is that part of the reason why it's difficult to pick a Dead artist? Because there are just so many different styles and what... I mean, hip-hop right now, and Tyler, the Creator he's pop hip-hop.
Yeah.
It's different stuff, but it all kind of fits in that genre, and that's what's big now.
Yeah.
But going back in the past to Dead musicians, you've got so many things to...
Yeah.
Yeah. Rock, who would you work with? And on what instrument?
Honestly, probably drums. I'd want to do drums for...
Okay.
Yeah.
With?
With, one of my favorite bands, probably Zeppelin, Led Zeppelin.
Oh, they don't have a drummer right now. Those are some damn big shoes to fill, though. Which is exactly why they're no longer together, because nobody could replace Bonham. Jazz.
I want to say John Coltrane.
He's interviewing you. Really?
Coltrane.
Stop torturing this guy.
Yeah.
Okay, not Davis, but what of Davis's styles or albums is your favorite?
I mean...
You can choose not to answer this question.
Okay, we can pass.
Yeah.
Let him think.
Favorite trumpet player?
He's quizzing
Davis.
you. I mean,
Davis?
Yeah, Davis.
Second favorite?
It's like probably Lee Morgan. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite guitarist?
Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
Jimmy Page or Slash.
Okay.
I want to know, do your parents always support your ideas and beginnings? Tell the truth.
I usually don't tell them about my ideas till I'm done doing them.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's your first song.
My first
we
song.
We had no idea. We had no idea. He just came out one day and said, well, this is, you guys say I've been hiding in my room a lot lately. Well, this is what I've been doing. And we're like, yeah, okay. And then he presses play and there it is. So, yeah, you play things pretty close to the vest until you're ready to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He loves surprises.
Which is why I don't quite believe him when he says, I've got a couple of ideas maybe that I'm working on. I'm sure they're probably a bit further along than just ideas. But who knows? Maybe I'm overestimating you.
What do you hate the most about being a musician? And also love? Both.
I mean,
Any challenges you can think of?
it's hard getting started, really, because you really have to put your mind to it, especially when you're starting, because you're not gonna be playing stuff that's interesting to you or other people right away. you have to, I mean, the start is always bitter.
That's what I tell my son.
Yeah.
You cannot play it immediately.
Mm-hmm. But then once you start playing for a while and you start playing things that you recognize or wanted to play for a while, that's where the fun starts.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What were you up to last night?
Where were you last night?
I was at...
I know the answer to this question. I'm not putting him on the spot and asking him as a father, like, I have no idea where you were last night. You need to explain.
I hope so, Master Steve.
I was at Ulichanyan Club. It was the Rafael Petrosen trio and the conductor for the Spandarian jazz band, David Godakian. He was playing bass. And yesterday, before my lesson at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he came up and said, "You should come and play with us tonight."
Oh, that's neat.
So yeah.
Do you answer right away, or you need time to think and to...
I mean, no, it wasn't a question. He wasn't asking if I'll come and play. He said, "You're coming and playing with us tonight." Really, yeah.
Do you get nervous?
Yeah.
Before playing?
Yeah, I mean, it's especially there when you know most of the people who are there know quite a bit about music. Or even the people you're playing with know quite a bit about music and not that much about you. You get kind of nervous.
But it's a great thing that they invited to play with them.
Yeah,
so.
it was a lot of fun. I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity.
Okay, we'll interrupt now for a music break. I Am Free by Wax Taylor. And we'll be back in the studio right after it. So stay tuned, write your comments, and ask your questions to our guest, Tony.
Hey, what kind of fixins do you like on your hot dog?
Fixins?
Yeah, relish, onions, mustard, ketchup, condiments.
No, not that.
Oh, fixins. I love chili dogs.
Learn about American cuisine on the Great American Weekend.
Welcome back to the Great American Weekend here on Radio Vaughn. I am Master Steve here with Ina MK and Tony Donatel.
Tony, the orchestra.
What?
I have many questions. Please, you ask them at home, okay?
Okay, all right.
I want to talk about something aside music. What is it that you'd change about yourself?
Physically or personality-wise?
I think I meant personality.
Okay. I have a habit of being late.
Mm-hmm.
Probably change that.
I hear you.
Yeah. Not a great thing, but...
That's what all creative people have, okay? So
it's a very...
Get over it,
Well, it's
guys.
also a very Armenian thing. What influence do you think Armenia has had on you and your music?
A good question. I like it. Finally. Sorry.
I feel like I wouldn't be as immersed in music if I wasn't here. I mean, for a young musician, there are a lot of opportunities here. I feel like in other places, the amount of education you can get music-wise isn't as good for young people. I mean, people under the college age, as it is here. And here it's quite strict, but I guess that's for the best.
On the other side, what do you think that Armenia lacks in music industry, in this sphere?
I feel like there's a certain point where everyone gets there and it just stops. And no one really knows how to go forward, and no one really wants to go forward. And I feel like that could be a reason why quite a lot of people leave Armenia, looking for more opportunities.
Are you planning to do so?
At least for college.
Yeah, which brings up, your shirt.
Yeah, Berkeley, one of my dream colleges out in Boston.
I guess I would ask, is there really a music industry here in Armenia?
I wouldn't say industry as much as, especially when it comes to jazz, just a group of people that all know each other and play with each other.
So, and I guess
music family.
Yeah. I mean, there's a scene.
Way to put it. Yeah,
there's definitely a music scene here. Rock, jazz, classical, everything.
Mm.
And I guess the benefits of that are, I'm asking.
I mean, everything here is really tight knit. I mean, everyone knows everyone.
Market,
yeah. And it's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. But I mean, yeah, it's interesting walking into Ulikhanyan Club and seeing everyone that's playing are people you know, people you've met or played with.
Yeah. Do you find anybody giving you maybe a hard time because you're jumping between genres?
Not really, no. I'd say most people don't know about all of the things that I do, all the different types of music that I do.
And we're changing that tonight, aren't we?
Yeah. But the people that do are really, really supportive. They think it's great that I'm trying different things, not tying myself down to one genre or one style of music.
Tony, since our show is called The Great American Weekend, I have to ask you, what makes a perfect weekend for you?
Going out with friends. I mean, sometimes we'll just go to one of my friends' houses and start playing, have a jam session.
So you have musician friends?
Yeah, most of my friends are musicians.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, or just hanging out somewhere. I feel like it's all about the people you're with and not what you're doing, really.
Interaction.
Yeah.
Okay, what kind of people make you angry?
Angry? People that have no motivation to do anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was going to say parents.
Parents, yeah.
What kind of people make you angry? Parents.
What is your favorite book, movie?
Book or movie? Both or either one?
Both.
Movie, I'm going to have to say Pulp Fiction, Tarantino.
Yay. I had that in my list.
Yeah.
I still like Reservoir Dogs better.
I'm not sure why. Close second. I mean...
Book.
Why is he smiling that way?
Who?
You.
Me?
Yeah.
Because he knows I don't read much.
Yeah.
I mean,
what are you reading now?
He's reading notes, okay?
Yeah.
Right now, I mean, I've kind of been putting it off recently, but I've been reading Master and Margarita.
Wow, it's hard to read.
Yeah.
Do you like it?
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun book.
It's strange and interesting. Great. Good choice. You find a lottery ticket that ends up winning $10 million. What do you do? Many albums?
I mean, yeah, probably buy a lot of instruments.
Like 10 guitars?
Yeah, like a new trumpet, a bunch of recording gear, stuff like that.
That will make a lot of trumpets.
Buy a studio.
A studio, basically. And probably a lot of...
Ask your dad what to do.
Yeah, I mean, so it probably
We can't fit all of those instruments in the house anymore. We've got enough. You need a studio.
A studio. Yeah, so I'd end up
10
buying...
million would be enough, right?
Probably. Hopefully.
He has a great plan for a really cool studio.
Yeah. And whatever's left, I'll probably buy a bunch of clothes with.
Tony, since we're out of time, yeah, this happens here. Time flies. I don't know what about you, but for us, it always does. Let's say you're on a big, world-famous stage, and there's a crowd, and you're a world-famous artist, and there are a lot of people listening to you on the TV and on spot and all around the world. And you have one message to say to everyone. What would it be?
That's a hard question. That's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot to think about. And
what comes to your mind?
Would you speak or would you just play?
Don't help him.
I feel like I have to speak after I play, probably, or before. Even though I don't like doing that, but probably just be positive. It sounds really generic.
Why
but,
not?
Positivity is important, and I feel like if more people were positive, things would be a lot better.
Most important things are simple things. So, thanks for coming,
Thanks
Tony.
for having me. Yeah.
I hope. What did you promise him for coming for coming to our show?
I didn't promise you anything, did I? No, I just
did.
It was everybody else in my family has been on the show now.
See, you
He's
forgot.
the last one, so I just said, "Hey, you coming?" So we're in the home stretch here with the Great American Weekend, and I figured I'd have him on before we wrap things up at the end of the month. Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming, Tony.
Thanks
Hope you enjoyed answering all our weird questions.
It's fun.
Stay at the station. Don't go anywhere, because we are going to take a picture for our episode. And we are going to continue with our regular calendar of events, dear listeners. So
we will be back after this commercial break with our calendar of events and some closing remarks.
Don't
Stick
go
with
anywhere.
us all the way until 9 o'clock here on Radio Van, the Great American Weekend. Ooh.
We are back on air.
already.
This episode had really short advertisement breaks. So we're back in the studio, ready to share with you our calendar of events for the week. And we will start with American Corner in Yerevan. Would you like to share the information?
Art and Conversation with Jim Daly. If you are interested in art, then join this club every Tuesday at 1 p.m. This week's topic of discussion is American versus European Impressionism. The discussion takes place on February 4th. Please be informed that the club is for people with intermediate and advanced levels of English. We've got the Reading Club with Natalie Sharp. The Yerevan American Corner invites you to this week's Reading Club, moderated by Fulbright English teaching fellow Natalie Sharp. This week you will read and discuss The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak, I believe is how you pronounce the name. I've seen it, but I've never heard it. It's one of those, Please be informed that the club is for people 18 years of age or older with intermediate level of English or higher.
And before I share with you the list of movies in English, I would like to say that young and talented Grieg Balasanyan says hi to you. And nice
Hello,
to see
Grieg.
you, Tony Donatelli. Say hi for me. So he says, hi back, Grieg Jan. It's a great thing to hear from you. Hope you're doing good, and we wish you good luck in all you do. So let's move to movies in English at Kino Park, Yerevan Mall from February 2nd to 5th. Bad Boys for Life, American action comedy film starring Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. 7:10 p.m. and 11 p.m. 1917, it is a British epic war film at 8:30 p.m. and Little Women, American coming-of-age period drama film at 3:10 p.m.
Opera and ballet. We've got Puccini's Tosca, an opera in 3 acts, February 4th at 7 p.m., and Gayane, the ballet in 3 acts, February 7th at 7 p.m.
Live music, new quintet at Ulihanian Club tonight, February 1st.
Suzy Shirakanyan and the Union Band playing at Mezzo Music Club tomorrow night, February 2nd. Also tomorrow night is Funkabout, February 2nd at Ulihanian Club. Kavic is playing tomorrow night live at Stop Club. Yes. It's also, well, anyway, Kavic Vace. Anyway, interesting. Check that out. If you like rock stuff, check that out. He's pretty cool. Rasia Avanesian and friends at Kami Club, February 2nd. The band with Karina Arustamian at Mezzo, February 3rd. I checked out that. I was at that last week. Very good. Impressive band. Colors, Music and Mood. Colors of Music, February 3rd at Kami Club. Trumpiano, February 3rd at Ulihanian Club. That is a duo of Karen Mamikoyan and Daniel Melkonyan playing together at Ulihanian. AM Jazz Quartet on February 4th at Ulihanian Club. Dead Walking is live at Beatles Pub February 4th at 9 p.m.
And again, Raisa, Vanessian and friends at Mezzo, February 5th. Catch the Silence, February 5th at Ulihanian with Karen Mamikonian and David Melkonyan.
It's funny, I noticed as I was putting this together, Karen Mamikonian is playing like almost every night at Ulihanian this week.
Every night and everywhere.
Check it out. He's incredible to see.
Serpuk at Mezzo, February 6th. Sarkis Dalakian Trio, February 6th at Ulihanian.
Dave Gildakian Sextet, February 7th at Ulihanian. We have Clocker at Stop Club on February 8th. MVF Band, February 8th at Ulihanian Club. Almost 20 Band, their first concert at the Venue, February 2nd at 8 p.m. That's tomorrow night. And Forsh at the Bombish Club is playing tomorrow night at 8 p.m.
And we've got some other events. There is
live screening of the Super Bowl. I mentioned this earlier on. Live screening of the Super Bowl at the Venue, starting at 3 a.m., Sunday night, Monday morning.
Monday morning.
Yeah, 3 a.m. is enough, especially
Let's
if you're going to be
end up
up
with
for
Monday. Let's come up with that.
You can finish the game just in time to go to work.
Yeah, right. How long does it last, by the way?
It all depends. It all depends. Yes. It's 45 minutes of actual playtime, but because the clock keeps stopping for all sorts of different reasons, it's not like football, like soccer football, where the clock just keeps going, so it's 90 minutes.
Yeah.
They can condense an American football game down to about between 45 and 50 minutes, and you don't miss any of the plays, but you miss all the timeouts and the stops and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. It could be 3 hours.
Wow. Yeah, it's about time to go to work if you're working in the region. So, okay, and we have Green Bar, Gamayun and Alan Smithy at Polygraph, February 7th. It starts almost at midnight. It says 11:59. Club with Hoopa, Hamlet, and Yi at Polygraph, February 8th at midnight. There is this silent disco initiative in Yerevan, which is going on for the second time. So Silent Disco Yerevan number 2 is going to happen February 8th at 8 p.m. and the location is not announced yet. So
is this where you just all get together and you dance to the music in your own head?
Yeah. It's in your headphones.
Oh, in your headphones.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
still, is everybody listening to the same music in their headphones, or you just bring in your own phone with your own headphones and dance to whatever you want?
There's a DJ playing, and
they provide you with the headphones.
They provide you with the headphones. There is no music heard, and people just hear the music in their headphones. So no neighbors can complain. Excuse me.
Well, unless everybody's got the sound on their headphones turned up too loud and try to talk to each other without taking the headphones off.
Yeah, yelling.
I don't know what's going on, but there's all this stomping in rhythm and then people yelling at each other.
That would look really weird.
I have no idea what's going on in the room next door.
Maybe if that was in America at some point, somebody would call the police.
They're just stomping in rhythm and yelling at each other. There's nothing else. I don't know what's going on here.
Stop these people. And the last, what we have in the list, Panopticon, electronic music at Polygraph, February 7th at 9 p.m. So we're done for tonight.
That's all that we have coming up this week here in Yerevan, as if that isn't enough. Get out, enjoy some of the live music, some of the entertainment.
There's a lot to do. So just plan your week. Enjoy going to places.
And plan to be back here with us next weekend.
Next weekend, Saturday night, we'll be here.
We're going to have
7.
Another musician as a guest who will play for us.
We won't tell you who that is. Maybe later during the week. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for all your comments out there, guys.
And thank you for Tony.
Thank you for Tony. And let's wish him good luck. We're happy to have talented people here in our studio. And someday he will play in our Radio Van studio as well.
Mm-hmm. I hope so.
Yeah, we hope.
Thank you for joining us. As always, it's great to have you listening in. This is the Great American Weekend here on Radio Van.
With Master Steve.
And Ina MK.
And if you missed this show, just catch up later on Monday. Bye-bye.